Today we're going to be learning a close reading and writing strategy called Lift the Line. This strategy is a strategy that you will use whenever you're reading fictional or non-fictional texts and whenever you're writing essays or short answers. It is one of the most important skills that you can learn. It's a skill that's going to help you become a better writer, and definitely it's a skill that's going to make you a closer reader. So what does it mean to lift a line? So you're going to hear your teachers in South End Middle School, your ELA teachers, your science teachers, your social studies teachers, you're going to hear them a lot talking about lift a line. They're just going to say it and assume that you understand it, especially when you get to 7th and 8th grade. But when we talk about lifting a line, what we mean is that you're literally going into the text that you've read at least once, maybe twice, and you're choosing one or two sentences. Okay, so notice it's not lift a lines, it's lift a line. Usually you're choosing one or two sentences from the text, and you're literally pulling those lines out of the text. You're lifting them from the text, and you're rewriting them word for word, and using them to answer a question or to prove a claim or to prove a point. These lines, sometimes we'll be doing a reading and you will have me ask you to lift a line that was significant to you or important to you. Okay, so sometimes it's just a line of reading that shows what's significant to you. Other times it's going to be lifting a line that answers a particular question or proves a particular point. But when we say lift a line, we mean go to the text and take one sentence or more, two sentences, and literally pull it directly out of the text word for word. So why do we lift a line? Why is it important to lift a line? Well, lifting a line is an important Common Core skill. It's a skill that you're going to use pretty much every day in your schooling, and it's absolutely something that you're going to need in high school and on into college or in the career world. When we say lift a line, we're talking about pulling evidence and supporting claims. And it's important that we know how to lift a line because when we find lines from the text, it enables us to support our thinking about our reading. And it also strengthens our writing. It strengthens our claims and it proves our point. And it also shows to the teacher or to the reader or to the test evaluator just how strong of an understanding you have of the text. So lifting a line shows that you're a good writer, it shows you're a good reader, and it shows you really understand a text, and it also shows that you've really thought about the text. So teachers do not like to have an essay that doesn't have text evidence. Without text evidence, an essay is just your opinion. It doesn't become an essay until you're supporting it with evidence. And that by far is the most important thing. It's what keeps that essay strong and makes sure that your claim is supported. How do I lift a line? Well, lifting a line is very simple. First, you need to figure out what the question's actually asking you. What are you looking for? And just a refresher, we did the do-what strategy. So the first step of lift a line is really the do-what strategy. And we all know that that do-what strategy should be done before you even start reading, so that when you're reading, you know exactly what evidence you're looking for as you're reading. So in many ways, you can kind of lift a line in your first or second reading, depending upon how easy a text may be. So you need to figure out what you're looking for. What evidence are you looking for? What question are you answering? And then you need to go back and find where you were looking for that evidence. So 9 times out of 10, a short answer or an essay question on MCAS or ANET is going to say something like in paragraph 2 or on page 5 or in the short essay on page 3. It's going to tell you exactly where to find your evidence. So you know exactly where to go looking for it. So you're not looking for it blindly. And once you know where you're going to look, you want to reread that paragraph or that page. Usually it's a paragraph. And you want to get yourself reacclimated with it. You want to get yourself familiar with it again. You want to get a general idea of what's going on in that paragraph. You don't just want to jump into the paragraph and pull out any sentence, because that's really not going to give you the best sentence or the best line to support your ideas. You want to read the paragraph You want to read the page, you want to read the section or excerpt of text again, and you want to find that one or two. And again, I almost always tell you to stick with one line, one sentence that proves the point that you're trying to prove. And when you find it, you should highlight it or underline it. Make sure that you do that before you even start copying it, because sometimes that may not be the right line, or sometimes you need to add a little more or a little less. And if you didn't highlight it or underline it when you go to write, you're not going to know where you found it, and it's going to take you twice as long if you have to go back to the text. So it's always a good idea to highlight or underline it. Then you want to do what the strategy teaches you. You literally want to lift the line from the text. And what do we mean by lifting a line? Well, we mean that you are going to rewrite that sentence word for word. Every word from the first capital letter all the way up to the mark of punctuation, you want to be pulling that literally out of the text. And once you've copied it from that first word all the way to the mark of punctuation, you want to make sure not to forget to put quotation marks before and after the line. So now I want you guys to watch me as I lift a line from the text. The question is, imagine that I was asked this particular question. So the question is, how does Rachel feel about the ugly sweater? Support your answer with text evidence. Okay, so I need to find a line that tells me how the character Rachel feels about the ugly sweater. Now, we read this text, but imagine that we didn't. I could still find the text evidence if I know what that question is before I read. Mrs. Price keeps saying, but nobody can remember. It's an ugly sweater with red plastic buttons and a collar and sleeves all stretched out like you could use it for a jump rope. It's maybe 1,000 years old, and even if it belonged to me, I wouldn't say so. So I'm going to choose that last line there. Even if it belonged to me, I wouldn't say so. Okay? Because I really think that that line does a good job of answering the question of how does she feel about the ugly sweater. So the answer that I might write is, Rachel feels that it is an ugly sweater and doesn't want it. In the text it says, now in red right here, there's my lifted line. Notice I wrote it word for word, and I put quotation marks at the beginning and end. Rachel says that she wouldn't even say it was hers if it was, because it's so ugly. So I have told my reader how I think Rachel feels about it, and I've proved my point by lifting a line from the text that shows that. So I have point, evidence, explanation. And we're going to continue to talk about the P strategy, which I know you've already learned as we move forward in this unit. So take a moment right now, and I want you to tell me what you saw me just do. What were the steps that I just went through to lift a line? In the chat, tell me now. All right, great. So now we're going to move on, and we're going to try this together. I'm going to give you a little time to try this lift a line strategy with your partner. Okay, we're going to read the following passage with your partner, and as you read, it's from the same text as our last model was. As you read this passage, I want you to find a line and lift a line that tells you how Rachel feels about turning 11. So you're going to work with your partner, you're going to both read this text, and then you are going to lift only one line that tells you how Rachel feels about turning 11. You're going to lift it, you're going to write it word for word, and you're going to put quotation marks at the beginning and end. Please do that now. All right, we did a great job with that partner share, and now I want you to do it on your own. So you've seen me do it, you've done it with a partner, now it's your turn. I want you to lift a line from the following text that explains how Rachel feels about getting older. When you find it, I want you to share it with me. Because the way you grow old is like an onion, and like the rings inside a tree trunk, or like my little wooden dolls that fit inside one another, each year inside the next one. That's how being 11 years old is. I want you to lift a line that explains how Rachel feels about getting older, and I'd just like you to write a sentence that answers the question, how she feels about getting older. Please do that now. So you've seen us learn about lifting a line, and we've practiced lifting a line together. You've seen me do it, you've done it with a partner, you've now done it yourself. And now we're going to go a little bit further. We're going to go back to a text that we've read in class, and now you're really going to practice that skill independently of lifting a line. And remember that when we lift a line, we don't always have to write about that line right away. Sometimes when we're reading or writing, we just lift the line and then we go back to write about it later. So let's do that now.